She said, "If you don't like how I live, leave," so I did, and she didn't expect what came next. Hi, I'm Drew, 29, and I used to believe love meant being someone's rock, even when they threw you overboard just to keep floating. If you don't like how I live, leave. That sentence? It hit like a crowbar to the gut. No yelling, no drama, just a cold, casual dismissal from the woman I'd built 3 years of my life around. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I nodded, packed, and walked away from the apartment I'd paid for, the future I thought we were building, and Kendra, my girlfriend of 3 years who had just chosen her new lifestyle over the guy who helped her chase her old dreams. And the kicker, I wasn't even mad. Not at first. Just hollow. Like someone had quietly pulled the plug on the life I thought I was living. And I only realized it when the lights flickered out. Kendra used to want to be a vet. That's how we met, volunteering at an animal rescue fair during senior year at Georgia Tech. I was organizing the adoption records. She was charming the families. We clicked. I liked her spark. She liked my steadiness. For a while, we felt like a team. Then came graduation. I landed a network security job. Decent pay, stable hours, enough to cover rent while she figured out her veterinary school path. I didn't mind footing the bills: rent, groceries, the occasional continuing ed class she wanted to take. She said she'd pay me back once she was in vet school. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Then she took a receptionist job at a high-end gym in Buckhead. Just temporary, she said. But temporary became permanent, and vet school turned into rooftop parties and late-night group hangs with people I never met, including Trent, a trainer whose idea of ambition was organizing midnight paddleboard sessions and posting shirtless inspirational quotes online. She changed. She came home later. She started talking about networking and opportunities more than anything related to veterinary medicine. Our weekend rescue visits became solo beach trips with gym friends. The cozy dinners became me eating leftovers alone. When I told her I missed her, that I felt like a stranger in our own relationship, she looked at me like I was pathetic. Said I didn't understand her world. Said I was holding her back. Then came that Thursday night. I just transferred $1,200 to her account, application fees for 3 vet schools she'd promised to apply to. I thought I was investing in her dream. But instead of a thank you, I got Instagram photos of her and Trent sipping overpriced cocktails in Savannah at some oceanside resort. When I asked about the money, she said she'd postponed her plans. Trent had shown her how freeing life could be when you didn't plan every second. Apparently, my structured, supportive nature was the anchor holding her back. And that's when she said it. If you don't like how I live, leave. So I did. I packed up everything I owned, 2 bags. That's all. Left her the furniture, the decor, the expensive coffee machine I bought, but she picked out. I even left her a note. You win. I'm out. Enjoy your lifestyle. Then I drove all night to Charlotte, where my college roommate Marcus had always said I had a guest room with my name on it. That night, my phone sat in airplane mode in the glove compartment. Kendra called 17 times. I didn't answer once. Marcus didn't ask questions. Just opened the door at a.m., handed me a blanket, and said, "Kitchen stocked. Shower's hot. You good?" That was the first time in weeks I felt seen. No guilt. No judgment, just solid ground under my feet again. That first week in Charlotte was weirdly healing. I slept on a lumpy futon, ate frozen burritos, and biked around the city like a teenager with no plan. But it was mine. My life, my pace, my decisions. No one telling me I wasn't exciting enough, rich enough, spontaneous enough. Kendra, meanwhile, was blowing up my phone. Texts like, "Can't believe you're being this dramatic. At least be mature enough to talk." And my personal favorite, "I didn't mean it like that. You know how I get when I'm frustrated." Translation, "Please reset the game so I can keep winning." She even roped in our mutual friend Jessica, who called me and said, "Kendra's a mess. She thought you'd come crawling back after a couple nights in a motel, not vanish." But vanishing was exactly what I needed, and while Kendra was spiraling, I was quietly rebuilding. I joined Marcus's cycling group, started playing chess again at a local club, and remembered what it felt like to be good at something just because. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't being told chess was antisocial, or that biking was a waste of weekends. I was just living. Then Jessica dropped the update. That made my stomach drop and laugh at the same time. Kendra moved in with Trent. No transition, no soft launch. Just straight from shared apartment with Drew to adventure life with shirtless gym guru. According to Jessica, Kendra framed it as starting fresh with someone who gets her. I almost wished her luck. Until the next part. Trent, turns out, was broke. Like deep in debt, 3 maxed credit cards, couldn't pay for his own pre-workout broke. All that flashy lifestyle? Leased, financed, sponsored by whoever was footing the bill that week. And suddenly that included Kendra. She quit her gym job, thinking Trent would support her dreams while she figured things out. 2 weeks in, he was already calling her high maintenance. 4 weeks in, he was yelling over bills. 8 weeks in, he smashed her laptop during a fight about money. And me? I was sipping iced coffee in a quiet Charlotte park, watching ducks. While her world imploded under the weight of the choices she swore would set her free. Jessica called me one night like she couldn't hold it in anymore. Okay, Drew, you're not gonna believe what happened. I braced myself. She moved in with another trainer? Nope, Jessica said. Trent kicked her out. Apparently, the fight started over a phone bill. Kendra had been covering most of their expenses with her credit cards, which were now maxed. When she asked Trent to help out, maybe get more clients, maybe stop ordering $90 protein powder, he lost it. Said she was killing his vibe. When she mentioned the rent being overdue, he accused her of trying to control him like her last boyfriend. That one stung. Even from a distance, she packed her things. Or rather, what was left after Trent sold her Apple Watch. By accident. She called her estranged sister in Birmingham, sobbing, and begged for a place to stay. Meanwhile, I was helping Marcus tile his kitchen and realizing something strange. I was happy. Not out loud jumping happy, but peaceful. The version of me who sat in silence while his girlfriend got ready for rooftop bars had been replaced by someone who woke up, rode 10 miles through the hills, and came back with a clear head. Then came the grand gesture. Kendra started posting carefully curated photos on social media, holding puppies at an animal shelter, a blurry shot of a vet's textbook, a coffee cup captioned, starting over, 1 sip at a time. The same feed that used to feature beach parties and $40 cocktails now looked like a Pinterest board for humility. She didn't tag me, but she didn't need to. Ritual friends started sending messages. She's trying, Drew. Maybe hear her out? Then she reached out to my mother. Hi Mrs. Carson. I just wanted to say I miss you. I know I messed things up with Drew, but I've grown so much. I wish he could see that. I laughed. My mom didn't. She just texted back. Maybe you should have thought about that before calling him boring. I thought that was the end of it, but then, on a sunny Friday in Austin, at my company's annual BBQ, it happened. Kendra showed up. In person. Hair done. Heels on. Designer purse slung over her shoulder like a trophy from another life. She looked determined, and maybe terrified. She had clearly rehearsed something. What she hadn't rehearsed. Seeing Rachel, my wife. Rachel walked up beside me, handed me a plate of brisket, kissed my cheek, and smiled like the moment was completely normal. Which, for us, it was. Kendra blinked like she was trying to wake up from a bad dream. I introduced her, calm as ever. Kendra, this is Rachel, my wife. Rachel, this is someone I used to know. Kendra's lips parted. No words. Just that wide-eyed realization that she was 3 years too late, a dozen choices too wrong, and had just tried to reclaim a life that no longer had space for her. Rachel, bless her, had no clue who Kendra was, just sensed something was off from the awkward silence clinging to the air like barbecue smoke. She smiled anyway. Nice to meet you, she said kindly, handing me a napkin. Kendra just stood there, blinking, like she was waiting for a cue that never came. I turned slightly, just enough to angle my body toward Rachel and away from whatever mess had just walked into the company cookout. That's when Kendra finally spoke, her voice quiet, strained, like she'd bitten into something sour. So, you're married now? I looked her in the eye. Yep, 2 months. Kendra nodded like she didn't know what to do with her hands. I didn't know you moved to Austin. Wasn't exactly a broadcast event, I said. I figured you were busy, living your truth. She winced. I came to talk. Just hear me out, please. Rachel picked up on the tension immediately. I'll go grab drinks, she said softly, giving me a small squeeze on the arm before walking away. She didn't look back, not because she didn't care, but because she trusted me. That moment alone put 1,000 pounds of distance between Rachel and Kendra. Kendra inhaled, probably diving into whatever speech she'd rehearsed on the flight over. I've been doing a lot of thinking, therapy, volunteering again. I realized I lost myself for a while and hurt a lot of people, especially you. I didn't interrupt. Just let her talk. She paused, scanning my face for some sign of softening. When she didn't find it, her voice cracked a little. I thought maybe we could talk privately. Not here. I came a long way. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Kendra, I'm not angry. I honestly wish you the best. But this? I gestured around the park, the picnic tables, the coworkers, the woman laughing near the drink station who actually built a life with me. This isn't a conversation. It's closure. The part where you see that I'm good, and you let go. Her mouth opened, then closed again. I didn't owe her anything. Not explanations. Not comfort. Not one more second of pretending she hadn't treated me like a placeholder until someone flashier came along. She blinked rapidly, then reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I wrote you something. Just, if you ever want to read it. I didn't take it. I don't think there's anything in there I haven't already lived through, I said gently. She looked like I'd slapped her, but I hadn't. I was just done carrying her weight. Rachel returned right then, handed me a lemonade, and slipped her arm around my waist. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. I still on Kendra. Everything's just fine. And in that moment, Kendra understood the truth. I hadn't moved on because I was trying to forget her. I'd moved on because I remembered myself. Kendra didn't leave right away. She hovered, awkward, unsure. A ghost at a party she was never invited to. I watched her glance around at the laughter, the conversations, the ease with which I lived now. This wasn't the version of me she remembered. I wasn't the guy pacing our old apartment, waiting for her to come home. I wasn't some backup plan on standby. I was a man in motion, and she was standing still. Rachel leaned into me, whispering, "Do you want me to give you space to finish talking?" I shook my head. No space needed. Conversations over. That was the first time I realized just how different life could be when you're with someone who doesn't make you feel like you're always one misstep away from being replaced. Kendra tucked the envelope back into her purse and mumbled something like, "I guess this was stupid," before finally turning to leave. I didn't stop her, didn't call after her, just watched as she walked back across the lawn and disappeared behind the parked cars, her heels wobbling slightly in the grass. Rachel gave me a look, gentle, curious. That her? I nodded. Wow, I expected. I don't know. Fangs, smoke, thunderclouds. She used to have all that, I said. Now, she just has regrets. We didn't talk about it again that day. Rachel knew I'd unpack it in my own time, and I knew she'd be there when I did. That was our rhythm, quiet understanding, no pressure. The complete opposite of the chaos I used to call love. That weekend, as we sat on the back porch sipping coffee, Rachel finally asked, "What did she expect to happen, do you think?" I paused. She expected I'd still be standing where she left me. Rachel didn't say anything for a moment. Then she reached over, took my hand, and said, "Thank you for not being that guy." And just like that, the last splinter of pain from Kendra's chapter floated to the surface and dissolved. Because I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't someone's silent supporter while they ran off to chase distractions. I wasn't someone afraid to be alone. Afraid to enforce boundaries. Afraid to walk away when someone showed me who they really were. I was someone who'd left quietly and come back whole. The following Monday, I got an email from Jessica. Subject line, "She's leaving." Apparently, Kendra had told her family she was going back to her hometown. Said the city was too toxic, and she needed a reset. But the truth? She was broke, burned, and out of couches to sleep on. No job, no savings, no friends left who weren't tired of being used. She looked lost, Jessica wrote, but not in a way that felt temporary. Stared at that sentence for a while, then I clicked archive. Because some people get lost and eventually find themselves. Others, they just keep walking in circles, wondering why the world stopped waiting. The next few weeks passed quietly, peacefully, which, after everything, felt like the most luxurious thing imaginable. Rachel and I were back to our routines: bike rides in the morning, work calls in the afternoon, late-night documentaries about animals she swore she'd rescue someday. She was deep into her role at the rescue hospital, sometimes coming home with stories that broke her heart and stitched it right back up. And I was loving the challenge of leading my cybersecurity team, even if most of the work was just preventing people from clicking on obviously fake links. Every so often, I'd get a notification, someone liking the old Venmo request I'd sent to Kendra, the one that had turned into a meme. Still unpaid, by the way. $6,427. It had become a kind of symbol in my circle, a monument to boundaries and the power of saying no more. I didn't check her socials. I didn't ask around, but people talked. Apparently, Kendra tried to restart her social media consulting business, changed the name, wiped the old posts, pitched herself as a clarity coach. Now, her website claimed she helped women reclaim their power after toxic relationships. The irony didn't even sting, it was just laughable. I read the tagline out loud to Rachel one night, and she nearly choked on her tea. "You should Venmo her again," she joked. This time for emotional labor. But I didn't need to. I was done with that version of the story. Instead, Rachel and I started looking at houses together. Not a giant place, just something with a yard, a dog door, and maybe a garage I could finally turn into my little vintage computer workshop. She found a fixer-upper on the edge of town, cheap, sunny, with terrible wallpaper and so much potential. We both fell a little in love with it. We put in an offer the next week. It was accepted in 48 hours. Later that night, sitting on the floor of our current living room, surrounded by open pizza boxes and blueprints, Rachel looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if she hadn't said it?" I didn't even have to ask who she meant. "If you don't like how I live, leave," I said. She nodded. I smiled. "Yeah, I think about it all the time." And I thank her for it, because she thought she was ending things. But really, she was setting me free. I just didn't know it yet. The house needed everything: new floors, fresh paint, half the electrical rewired, and somehow, that made it perfect. Rachel and I spent our weekends tearing up carpet, picking out tiles, arguing playfully about backsplash patterns, and laughing about how HTVARJ had seriously lied about how easy any of this would be. She wanted a cozy breakfast nook. I wanted a home server rack and a dog. We compromised. Now, we have both. One night, deep in painting the guest room color Rachel swore was sage, but looked suspiciously like pistachio yogurt, she paused and said, "Do you ever wonder if you needed her to break you a little, to rebuild like this?" It took me a minute to answer. "I think I needed to stop trying to fix people who didn't want to be fixed," I said. "And to realize that loving someone doesn't mean erasing yourself." She stepped over a paint tray, got close, and kissed me softly. "You didn't erase yourself, Drew, you just buried him." For a while, we stood there in the middle of that half-painted room, our hands stained green, and I thought, this is the life I used to dream about when I couldn't sleep. A few days later, Jessica texted me out of nowhere. Just a screenshot. Kendra's latest post. It was a black and white selfie, filtered to oblivion, with the caption that read, "When you've given your heart to the wrong people too many times, you forget how to receive love. Working on healing, one day at a time." Below that, someone had commented, "Girl, didn't you fly across the country to crash your ex's work BBQ?" I didn't reply to Jessica. I just closed the screenshot, put my phone down, and picked up a screwdriver. I was building Rachel a new bookcase, because there's a point you get to after the drama, after the grief, after the slow, aching process of peeling someone else's expectations off your skin, where you realize you don't owe anyone your past, especially not the people who only show up when they think you're still broken enough to let them in. Later that night, I posted a photo on my story. Just me and Rachel, sitting on the floor of our new house, surrounded by pizza boxes and power tools, covered in paint. Caption: "Peace costs more than chaos ever pays. Worth every cent." No subtweet. No bitterness. Just truth. And maybe, deep down, I knew Kendra would see it. The day we moved in officially, it rained. Not a storm, just that soft kind of rain that makes everything smell clean and alive. Rachel and I stood on the front porch with our coffee mugs, watching our empty driveway slowly fill with puddles, and she leaned her head on my shoulder. This feels like a reset, she said. Like the real beginning. She was right. Not the kind of beginning that needs fireworks or speeches. Just two people choosing each other, on purpose. Every day, we spent the afternoon setting up the essentials bed. The dog bed for our rescue mutt, Lucky, who kept trying to eat the box labels. We ordered cheap takeout and toasted with dollar store wine glasses. She told me she was proud of me. I told her I'd never been happier to be boring and predictable. Later that week, I got one last message from Kendra. Not a call. Not a voice memo. Just a DM. I saw your photo. You look settled. I hope she knows what she has. I really did love you, Drew. I just didn't know how to show it. I was so stupid. Anyway, I'm sorry. For everything. I stared at it for a while. The old me, the one who waited up nights wondering if she'd come home, might have replied. But the version of me standing barefoot in a new home, surrounded by mismatched furniture and real love. He just smiled, closed the message, and moved on. I didn't need closure. I'd lived it. Some stories don't end with revenge. They end with peace. With a woman who doesn't need grand gestures, just someone who shows up. With a life where the soundtrack is laughter over dishes, the hum of a well-used bike, the quiet click of a chess clock at midnight. Sometimes the best thing that ever happens to you is someone else's final mistake, and sometimes the loudest "I told you so" is silence. So here's to the ones who leave, and to the ones who stay gone, because the right people, they don't make you beg for a seat at the table. They build it with you one honest brick at a time, and they call it home. Drew.